Hello students, so this is the continuation part of forest and wildlife. Previous topic we have discussed about some of the management techniques taken by government as well as local people for conserving the forest, and we'll see what are the other factors or other stakeholders, how they are contributing to the forest conservation. So coming to management of protected areas by keeping the local people out by using force cannot possibly be successful in the long run. So have you understood that most of the cases government as well as forest department as well as some of the industrialists who are having the access to use the forest products, they don't let the local people to enjoy the forest products. So that case what happened, keeping the local people out by using force cannot possibly be successful in the long run. Definitely for the conservation of the forest or for sustainable management of the forest area, ignoring the traditional practices of local people, it's not at all successful in the long run. Maybe in the short run, immediately when the forest is converted or shifted or changed into any national park, maybe in some aspects government as well as forest department, even the industrialists may get benefit, but in the long run ecology definitely can be damaged. Best instance we have studied in the previous class, that is about alpine meadows, right? So in any case, the damage caused to forests cannot be attributed to only the local people. So most of the cases government considers that local people are enjoying the forest resources and they are over exploiting the forest resources. Because of that, forest could not be conserved, but it's not at all correct. One cannot turn a blind eye to the deforestation caused by the industrial needs or development projects like building roads or dams. Suppose you see this factor for constructing roads and dams, definitely government should occupy some area of the forest and deforestation should be done. But government thinks that that's leading to the development of the country. In one aspect, economically or like the country wide it is developing, but ecology definitely it is damaging. Here, cause is not done by the local people, it's done by the government itself. Okay? The damage caused in these reserves by tourists or the arrangements made for their convenience is also to be considered. Some cases, if you see tourism department, even that comes under the government or else private tourism department, whatever it is, even that is also can be considered as an industry. Sometimes this tourism department also damages the forest area during doing any arrangements made for the convenience of the tourists, as well as convert the particular area, forest area, which is suitable for the tourism. So during the time also, ecology somehow it can be damaged. So all these cases like constructing roads, dams, even the tourism construction, okay, tourism development, all these factors, local people actually not involved in. So every time we can't blame the local people, they only like over exploiting the forest resources. To be frank, traditional practices of the local people is very beneficial for the conservation of the forest. So previous topic we have already discussed about this alpine meadows, like nomadic shepherds used to bring their sheep for grazing the Himalayan alpine meadows grass, which was helpful to the meadows. But once the local people practices are ignored by the government or stopped by the government, because of that the particular ecology is completely disturbed, right? And suppose you consider this, economic growth and ecological conservation always should go hand in hand. What it means? Have you understood this sentence? Economic growth and ecological conservation always should go hand in hand, means both should be given equal priority. So when government giving importance to the economic growth and encouraging more industrialization, along with that economic growth, government definitely should concentrate on the ecological conservation also, and both should be given equal importance. Then only sustainable management, sustainable running of the forest could be possible. Okay, so the kind of economic and social development we want will ultimately determine whether the environment will be conserved or further destroyed. The environment must not be regarded as a pristine collection of plants and animals. It is a vast and complex entity that offers a range of natural resources for our use. So definitely we all should get that awareness. Environment is not a handful collection of plants and animals only. This is a complex entity, complex group which offering a range of natural resources for all of us. When you have that awareness, then ecological conservation definitely could be possible. Okay, so it's nothing but economic and social development. Social development is nothing but it's an ecological factor. Environmentally, we should be sustainable in nature, and we need to use these resources with due caution for our economic and social growth. Definitely, even resources are available to us, but cautiously and wisely we should utilize all these resources to meet our material aspiration. Whatever the material needs we have, definitely we can fulfill from these forest products and from the natural resources, but at the same time we should consider about the ecological conservation and sustainable management, because future generations definitely should enjoy all these resources. We should conserve them for our future generations. Okay, so that means ecological growth and economic growth and ecological conservation should go hand in hand. Government definitely should give equal priority for country economic growth as well as ecological conservation. Any one only given more importance, then definitely that would not lead, or that would not run in the long run. In the long run, it cannot be successful. Suppose you concentrate only on the economic growth and we don't bother about our ecology, definitely many calamities we could see, right? Due to that, economic growth also can be stopped. And recent issues, many of you are aware of the recent issues, what is happening. I don't want to mention what are they, but they clearly eye-opening scenarios. These all are told to us that we should not concentrate only on economic growth. Definitely we should give equal importance to ecology and we should respect our nature. Okay, so that is the meaning. Economic growth and ecological conservation definitely should go hand in hand. Okay, sometimes in exam they ask you this, they give this statement and they ask you to justify the statement, and you can explain what it means and how they should be. Suppose you see this picture, you will understand well. Ecology as well as economy should be equally important for the overall development of the country. Next one, coming to sustainable management. Whenever we focus on ecology and economy, equal importance is given to the ecology, environment, then definitely that leads to sustainable management. Sustainable management of resources are nothing but optimum utilization of the resources to meet our material aspirations by considering our future generations. So what it means, sustainable management, what it means, definitely we can utilize all the resources optimally. We can utilize all the resources whatever available to us, okay, to meet our material aspiration, to meet our needs, but we should consider about our future generations. definitely we should conserve the resources by having some respect for our future generations. That means sustainable management. So we need to consider if the goals of all the above stakeholders with regard to the management of the forest are the same. Forest resources are often made available for industrial use at rates far below the market value, while these are denied to the local people. Suppose you check this one. Forest resources are available for the industrial use far below the market value. Means government sometimes having a misconceptions, and they don't allow the local people to utilize the forest products, because local people anyhow they don't pay like monetary terms to the government, so they don't bother about the local people. When industries are given the right to use these forest products, definitely industrial people pay some money to the government. Through that, government gets some monetary benefits. Because of that, definitely government is giving importance to the industries than the local people. But remember, local people are very much necessary, and the traditional practices of local people are very much necessary for the conservation of our forest. Okay. Further, many instances also there, many examples also there. What are those examples also we will see. That is nothing but the Chipko Andolan. I hope everyone know what is Chipko Andolan, right? Check this one, Chipko Andolan. If you see, it's nothing but the hug the tree movement, hug the trees movement. So local people, how much they have the concern towards their forest areas is proved with this Chipko Andolan. Okay. In this movement, it was the result of grassroots level efforts to end the alienation of people from their forest. So when the people are not allowing to participate in the traditional practices of the forest usage, then this movement has started by the local people. So in which area it is started? This movement originated from an ancient in a remote village called Reni in Kharwar. So where it is started? Reni in the Kharwar village started, and it is high up in Himalayas during the early 1970s. There was a dispute between the local villagers and a logging contractor who had been allowed to fell trees in a forest close to the village. So what happened, and what is the main reason to start this Andolan? There was a dispute between the local villagers and logging contractor. So frequently they used to quarrel. When the logging contractor start cutting all the trees of the particular area where the villagers were living, when they cut all the trees, then they lose their shelter. Villagers lose their shelter. Because of that, continuously there was a quarrel and clashes between local villagers and the logging contractor. So what happened one day? On a particular day, workers appeared in the forest to cut the trees, while the men folk were absent. So all the men of the male of that particular villagers went for doing some work when they were not there in their area. During the time, these contract workers appeared to cut all the trees. Undeterred, the women of the village reached the forest quickly and clashed the tree trunks, thus preventing the workers from felling the trees. So how they prevented the cutting of the trees, or how they preserved the trees? They started clasping the trees, they hugged the trees. All the women together, when they hugged the trees, then the contractor could not do anything and he withdrew the work. So like that local people, especially the women of that particular area, conserved their forest area. So that is about Chipko Andolan. So here what happened? Logging contractor definitely get benefit when he cut all the trees, right? And government also given right to them, permission to them to cut the trees. But local people, because of their shelter or something, whatever it is, they conserve the trees. So who worked for the sustainable management of the forest? Definitely local people. So this is an case or one example how local people involved in the conservation or the preservation of the forest area. That is Chipko Andolan. Okay. So Chipko Andolan case, if you see, this is the case. All the women clasp the trees in such a way. When they hug the trees, all the women together like this, when they start hugging the trees, then the logging contractor could not cut the trees, right? Because he doesn't have right to kill the women. Just he had right only to cut the trees. So in such a way, all the women protected their trees. So that is Chipko Andolan. Okay. Inherent in such a competition to control a natural resource is the conservation of a replenishable resources. Specifically, the method of use was being called into question. The contractor would have felled the trees, destroying them forever. The communities traditionally lop the branches and pluck the leaves, allowing the resources to replenish over the time. Suppose both the cases you check. Just now we have discussed about Chipko Andolan, right? In this Chipko Andolan case, if you see, local people, these women definitely get benefit from all this forest area. But what do? They also utilizing, and they are also getting some of the resources from them. But what they do? Just they pluck the leaves or they cut the branches, but they don't uproot or they don't completely cut the trees. Right? And they give sufficient time to the trees and the plants to regrow again. But in case of the logging contractor, suppose logging contractor would allow to cut complete area, complete forest area could be deforested. Right? That should not be done. So inheriting such type of practices like Chipko Andolan type of practices is done or inherited by some of the natural activists who are having concern towards the nature. They inherited or they taken all these andolans, all these programs, and they keep on doing them. They keep on fighting for the protection and conserving of the forest area. Okay. Chipko movement quickly spread across communities and media and forced the government to whom the forest belongs to rethink their priorities in the use of forest produce. Experience has taught people that the destruction of forest affected not just the availability of forest products but also the quality of soil and the sources of water. You know, when we deforestation definitely leads to soil erosion, and water availability also reduces, because definitely that affects the water cycle. I hope you understood this one, right? When trees levels of the deforestation taken place, trees are not sufficient in quantity, because of that water cycle definitely can disturb. Transpiration rate will reduce, water cycle definitely disturbed. At the same time, soil quality also disturbs, because top layers of the soil can erode. Because of that, soil quality also disturbs. So it's not only this deforestation or allowing the logging contractors to cut the trees, not only affecting the quantity of the forest products, it's also disturbing the quality of soil and sources of water. Participation of local people can indeed lead to the efficient management of the forest. So with this, it's clear, when local people are participating, local people are participating in management of the forest areas or the forest products, to be frank, that leads to the efficient management of the forest. Okay, and here is an example of people's participation in the management. So now we'll discuss about one of the people's participation in efficient forest management process. Okay, so what is that example of people's participation in management of forests? So sometimes in exam they ask you this statement, they give you this statement, they ask you to explain the statement or describe the statement by giving an example. So that now the case what we are going to study will be the answer. So here is the example of people's participation in management of the forest. So what is that? We'll see. So coming to this forest area. Which forest area? Forest which is located in the West Bengal. There is nothing but Arabari forest, which is rich with sal trees. Sal trees, I think they are useful for, and they used for the timber purpose. Very long trees they are. So in 1972, the West Bengal Forest Department recognized its failure in reviving the degraded sal forest in the southwestern districts of the state. So especially southwestern districts of the West Bengal area, Forest Department recognized its failure. Continuously sal trees and the sal trees which are located in the particular area, Arabari forest, it's not increasing the value, worth of that forest is not increasing. Continuously they started degrading. Degrading means due to maybe smuggling or Naxalism, whatever the factor it is, or due to bad management of the government, whatever it is, continuously the trees are degraded. The value, almost the forest value became to zero. Okay, this happened in the year of 1972. During the year of 1972 it was recognized. Okay, traditional methods of surveillances and policing had led to a complete alienation of the people from the administration, resulting in the frequent clashes between the forest officials and villagers. Have you understood this? So here Forest Department is having a strategy. What is that? During the year of 1972, that Forest Department had a strategy. We should completely separate the involvement of local people in the administration of the forest area. Completely local people involvement should be eliminated or separated. Understood? So traditional method of surveillances and policing had led a complete alienation of the people from the administration. It's nothing but elimination is nothing but separation of the local people in forest administration. Because of that, definitely there will be clashes and quarrels between the forest officials and villagers, because villagers always ask the forest officials for the utilizing of the forest products and for the entry into the forest area. But forest officials during that time 1972 time, they never allow these villagers to enter into the sal forest or Arabari forest. Because of that, there is a miscommunication and gaps created between government and the villagers. Okay, government and villagers. So that led to forest and land related conflicts in the region were also a major factor in fueling the militant peasant movements led by the Naxalites. So what happened whenever the villagers are not friendly with the officials, or forest officials are not at all cooperative to the villagers, there were the clashes. Then some of the villagers started helping to the Naxalites. At the same time, villagers also not bothering, even they come to know about the entry of the Naxalites to the forest area. So villagers are not at all cooperative to the forest officials. Because of that, Naxalism started developing. Okay, and these clashes added a fuel for the increase in Naxalism. So forest and land related conflicts in the region were also a major factor in fueling the militant peasant movements led by the Naxalites. So Naxalism started increasing in the particular area. So that definitely there is no chance of increasing the value or worthy of the sal forest during this year. So this was the initial strategy taken by the West Bengal Forest Department. What is that? Complete elimination of local people in the administration of the forest area. Because of that, to be frank, forest became worthless. Arabari forest became worthless. Okay. So what happened? And here you see these are the Naxalism started increasing like this, especially in the West Bengal forest area. Okay, and you see degraded salt trees, degraded salt forest. Forest is there, but it's not up to the mark, and it's worthless during the 1972 time. It's worthless, almost worthless during 1972 time. Okay, so what happened? How the government changed its strategy, we'll see, and how the local people involved in the efficient management of the forest, we'll see. Okay, check this one. So accordingly, the department changed its strategy, making a beginning in the Arabari forest range of Midnapur district. Here, at the instance of a far-seeing forest officer named A.K. Banerjee, villagers were involved in the protection of nearly 1272 hectares of badly degraded sal forest. Okay, so A.K. Banerjee completely changed his strategy. He started involving the villagers for the protection of nearly 1272 hectares of badly degraded sal forest. So for the protection and conservation, even for the better improvement of the sal forest, local people started involving in this sal forest area or Arabari forest area, and this strategy is initiated by A.K. Banerjee, Forest Department officer. Okay, in return for help in protection, villagers were given employment in both silviculture and harvesting operations. 25% of the final harvest also given to the villagers, and allowed fuel, wood and fodder collection on payment of nominal fee. So when the local people are given utmost importance in conservation of the sal forest, okay, when they are involved, A.K. Banerjee given permission to the local people or the villagers employment in both silviculture and harvesting operations. Silviculture is nothing but cultivating in the forest area. They can do some of the cultivation practices in the forest area. At the same time, 25% of the final harvest can be taken by the local people. At the same time, some of the fuel and fodder can be collected from the forest by paying some nominal fee. Nominal fee means, government always ask to pay some amount of money to take from the people, but very nominal values, very limited amount, very less amount. Okay, with that nominal fee only, A.K. Banerjee allowed all the local people to utilize the fuel, wood, fodder from the forest area. So now definitely people are happy. Local people are happy. Okay. With the active and willing participation of the local community, the sal forest of Arabari underwent a remarkable recovery by 1983. A previously worthless forest was valued now, by the year of 1983, it was valued 12.5 crores. Okay, you can check which year it was worthless, during which year it was worthless. Nearly 1972 it was worthless. 1972 it was worthless. By the year of, check this one, by the year of 1983, it's like a 10-year span. Nearly the value of the Arabari forest range reached to 12.5 crores. And this whole credit goes to A.K. Banerjee, who has changed his strategy and he involved the local people participation in the efficient management of the forest. Okay, so this is one of the example how the local people efficiently managed the forest area. Or else sometimes in exam they ask you, give an example of efficient management done by the participation of the local people. Efficient management of forest area done by the participation of the local people. So I hope you understood the topic.